The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Well, I just got back from Roswell, where the aliens have been. And if you ask the feds the cause, well, they'll only lie again. Now I'm hunted by the gumshoes, and I'm wanted by the cops, 'cause they think that I might be the guy making circles in the crops. And I know that there's a conspiracy from the voices in my head. Elvis lives, that's clear to me. It's McCartney who is dead. And if the Mars men should come again and take me, I will go. I will take a trip on their rocket ship. God bless the UFO. Give JFK this message. It's the Cuban Army's fault. And I know that Dave Koresh is alive inside a vault. We've seen reports in papers of a guy who knows about a car that runs on chewing gum, but the Arabs rubbed him out. And we loudly warn that America is badly unprepared. With the Cold War through, we need something new that can get you good and scared. Do you wonder just who is warning you of conspiracies today? We're the ones who fill the rumor mill. We are the CIA.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and yes, we're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. What a day this has been for ufology. Today in Washington, D.C. at the National Press Club, there was a press conference held by former members of the United States Air Force who said that aliens and UFOs posed a threat to our nuclear weapons. We carried that entire topic in the previous hour with Stephen Bassett, who is trying his very best to break the truth embargo on UFOs. His website, once again, is www.researchparadigmgroup.org. Thank you. I was on the Bill Kelly Show earlier today. In fact, I'm going to play Bill's interview with me in the next segment. We were talking about a story that came out this weekend from a United Kingdom newspaper, The Telegraph. And it reads, UN to appoint space ambassador to greet alien visitors. A space ambassador could be appointed by the United Nations to act as the first point of contact for aliens trying to communicate with Earth. No, we're not talking about the aliens from other countries. We're talking about the visitors from the stars. Mazlan Othman, a Malaysian astrophysicist, is set to be tasked with coordinating humanity's response if and when ET contact is to commence. Aliens who landed on Earth and asked, "Take me to your leader," would be directed to Mrs Othman. She will set out the details of her proposed new role at the Royal Society conference in Buckinghamshire next week. The 58-year-old is expected to tell delegates that the proposal has been promoted or prompted by recent discovery of hundreds of planets orbiting other stars, which is thought to make the discovery of extraterrestrial life more probable than ever before. Mrs. Othman is currently head of the United Nations' little-known Office for Outer Space Affairs, also known as UNOOSA. Now, opinion is divided about how future extraterrestrial visitors should be greeted under the Outer Space Treaty on 1967, which UNOOSA oversees. UN members agreed to protect Earth against contamination by alien species by sterilizing them. We'll talk more later when I come back from this commercial break. We're going right to my interview with my friend Bill Kelly that was live this morning on AM 900 CHML. My name's Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break. Don't go away.
Have you exhausted all traditional means of healing without success? Are you experiencing communications through ghosts, angels, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services to humanity at this time through consultations. These consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you desire clarity of what may appear to be unexplainable phenomenon, then contact me through my website at aguidinglight, spelled LITE.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
Love to an alien near Roswell last night. We strolled along together in the pale moonlight. I had a funny feeling that something...
Where Fred Eisenberger, who's running for re-election, obviously, in the city for the mayor's job, announced he was going to have one of his campaign plans. He wants to hire a goodwill ambassador to be a greeter for new immigrants to the city. And at the time, I thought it was kind of a ridiculous idea, and another layer of government and paying for another position, and, you know, totally unnecessary. But I guess you have to put things in perspective, okay? Then on the weekend, I get this story, and at first glance, when I saw this headline, I thought, okay, this is a gag. This is something somebody made up. This is something out of the Inquiry. The National Enquirer, rather. You know, it's a lark, right? And then I thought, wait a second, is this April 1st? No, it's not April 1st. Okay, it can't be an April Fool's joke. Because sometimes news wires, you know, will put out silly stories as April Fool's jokes. And I said, no, it's not. This is from the Telegraph in London, England. The United Nations apparently will be appointing a space ambassador to greet alien visitors. I'm not making this up. A space ambassador could be appointed by the UN to act as the first point of contact for aliens trying to communicate with Earth. There's a Malaysian astrophysicist named Mazlan Othman who is set to be tasked with coordinating humanity's response if and when extraterrestrials make contact. Aliens who land on Earth are asked, take me to your leader. Well, apparently they'd be directed to Mrs. Othman, who will be the space ambassador for the United Nations. This is what they're talking about at the UN, and I thought maybe they were going to try to solve the famine problem in Africa, but apparently no, they're trying to get this thing. We'll get to famine in a minute, okay? Please, you know, we've got our priorities. We have to get this space ambassador settled first, all right? Been talking about this ever since the Michael Rennie movie back in the 50s, and we've got to get this thing nailed down. Our good friend Rob McConnell, host of the X-Zone radio and TV shows, is with us to talk about this possibility. Rob, it's good to talk with you again.
Oh, it's great talking to you, my friend. So, Bill, why don't you apply for the job?
I was going to say, why not you? I thought, listen, the reason I wanted to talk to you about this is because when I heard the UN was going to appoint a space ambassador, I thought, and they've overlooked McConnell, what the heck is going on? This is an injustice of great magnitude.
Well, there you go. You know, maybe I should just apply for the job of Hamilton's greeter from Outer World.
Well, there could be that, too, I suppose, yeah.
But you know what?
What do you think of this idea?
Well, it's really amazing because there actually is the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. Now, the office, which is known as UNOOSA, is the United Nations office responsible, Bill, for promoting international cooperation and peaceful uses of outer space. It also serves as the secretariat for the General Assembly's only committee dealing exclusively, Bill, with international cooperation in the peaceful uses of outer space. It's also responsible for implementing the Secretary General's responsibilities under international space law and actually maintaining the United Nations Register of objects launched into outer space. So this is a very active and significant branch of the United Nations.
And that sort of makes sense to me. That's basically keeping track of the hardware that's up there, who's sending it up, who's controlling it, make sure you guys don't bump into each other and that sort of thing. That's
right, but it also is responsible for satellite imagery requests during disasters and manages, now listen to this, the United Nations Platform for Space-Based Information for Disaster Management and Emergency Response, which is known as UN SPIDER.
Which basically means they want to get shots from way up there if there's something going on down here.
Or another interpretation may be, in case something falls from out there or visits from out there, there's a preparedness plan in place.
And basically, this is an offshoot of this. They want to appoint this lady. It looks like she's going to get the job to be the ambassador. In other words, I guess, you know, to put it in their context, Rob, this is going to be the go-to person, right? When E.T. or somebody comes down here and says, I want to talk to your leader. Back in the old days, they took him to the White House. Apparently, no, they're going to take him to go see this lady now.
Well, of course, with Obama's, popularity ratings decreasing, I can understand that perfectly.
Well, that could be, too.
Yeah.
This really debunks those stories and those pictures I saw George W. Bush walking with aliens, too.
Yeah, I remember those. It's funny how every president ends up getting that picture taken. What a photo op, Bill. But you know what? It also brings back a discussion you and I had last time I was on your show where we were talking about Professor Stephen Hawking.
And you know what? And there's some legitimacy to this because what the UN is saying is not unlike what Stephen Hawking said, is that we've got to be prepared for the fact that somebody's going to come and visit us in an official capacity. And they may not be nice and they may not be friendly, so we better have a discussion about this.
Exactly. Or is this their way of trying to prepare the public, the good citizenry of this planet, that contact is imminent and that they may in fact know a date, time, and place, and they're preparing us?
I never thought of it that way. You always bring up these different possibilities or probabilities, I guess. Why? Are there signs?
Yes, there are. In fact, last week I was talking to a very well-known Canadian UFO researcher and author, Chris Rutkowski. UFO sightings in Canada are significantly up this year, Bill. I was also speaking to Peter Davenport, the director of the National UFO Reporting Center in Washington. UFO sightings over Canada and the U.S. are spiking this year. Today I'm going to be talking to Steve Bassett, who is the head of Paradigm Research Group. We're actually going to be reporting on a press conference that is happening today at the National Press Club in Washington, where several members of the United States Air Force, who are now retired, are going to come forward and bring documentation to show that in the 1980s there was a definite threat from UFOs hovering over nuclear weapon sites.
That was never reported on. Well, it was officially reported, but never released to the public.
Well, it was released to the public. It was, it's known as the Maelstrom Air Force Base UFO encounter.
And what happened?
Well, what happened was there were several cases where UFOs allegedly were seen by the on-duty guards atop the silos. Systems within the silos, when these UFOs were over, started to malfunction, and even the missiles themselves malfunctioned and could not be launched.
So were they doing that on purpose, do you figure, or is it just because their gyro stuff that was going on up there was interfering with what was going on here?
Now, according to the people, Bill, that are going to be at this press conference, including Robert Jameson, who was the former captain of the Minuteman I missile targeting officer. He was at Malmstrom Air Force Base from 1967. He said it seemed as if these visitors in this UFO were deliberately showing the missile strategic forces that, you know, you guys are nothing to us.
What do we read into this stuff? You know, Rob, you're a skeptic when it comes to this stuff. It's not as if you simply read all these stories and take them at face value. You do a lot of research, and just like the authorities do, an awful lot of the things that get reported as UFOs, which we automatically, by the way, make the rash judgment that they're spaceships.
Yeah.
UFO just means identified flying object. Most of them can be identified. Most of them have what we consider to be logical explanations. When these Air Force pilots come forward today and say, that's not what we saw, do we take what they're saying at face value, or are we skeptical about that too?
Well, we don't know what they saw, Bill. This is the entire crux of the entire conundrum we find ourselves in when researching UFO reports. There is not enough evidence. Now, I'm not talking about the photographs that people are taking with their cell cameras or whatever. I'm talking about from the people who actually make sightings. The reports do not include enough data for qualified UFO researchers to follow. Let's go back to the case of Stevensville. Let's go back to the case of the Phoenix Lights. Let's go even back to Roswell. Here we are, 60-some-odd years after Roswell. Still no evidence has been found. Bill, I want to be a believer, but I'm still looking for the proof. Now, after today's press conference, if you've got 5 or 6 members of the United States Air Force who claim they're coming with documentation to prove that there was a definite UFO, that the UFOs and the aliens are showing and were considered to be a risk when it came to our nuclear weapons, well, we just have to see what comes out.
But you're open-minded about this. Here's the thing. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Roswell, and of course, remember some inventive guy took a kind of an offshoot of that and decided to make a TV series. Remember a couple of years ago that said, "Hey, they're already here, and they've already intermingled with us. We're here. They have spawned their own. So on and on it goes. So there's that theory. What Hawking is saying, and what some of the people at the UN seem to echo yesterday, Rob, is that you'll know when they come because they're not going to be friendly."
That's one side of the coin, Bill. But the other side of the coin is maybe they have already been here. Maybe they've played a part in the development and creation of our civilization as we know it. Maybe the ancients actually did interact with them. And maybe they don't mean any harm to us all.
Are you talking about those sketchings we've seen on some of the walls in the pyramids?
Yes, and the petroglyphs, and the different folklore, cultures, traditions, and philosophies. You know what, Bill? Since you and I first started going back to, 1992,
yeah,
I've interviewed over 3,168 people. And the jury is still out because neither side, pro or con, believer or skeptic, can come up with enough evidence to support their beliefs.
All right, so there are skeptics, there are firm believers, as you know.
Yep.
And you've talked to some of them too, and then there are the skeptics. But is it fair to say that maybe the common thread that both sides have here is that contact is inevitable?
I think the common thread that binds both sides of this debate is the unknown. Because
for the United Nations to say we want to appoint somebody who's going to be on this, you say they wouldn't spend the time or energy to do this unless they had some reason to believe that, as you say, contact may be imminent. In other words, maybe somebody's coming. Guess who's coming to dinner, Rob?
Well, something like that. But look, even the Vatican has said that they would welcome extraterrestrials.
Yeah, which is kind of unusual. I guess the reason I'm getting kind of piqued by this is that all sorts of people that you didn't expect to actually validate this are starting to validate it now. What do they know?
Or is it, once again, we've seen that, Bill, we saw this when Close Encounters hit the movies. We saw this when E.T. hit the movies. We saw this when Independence Day hit. We saw We saw the hype. Is it hype? I don't know. the fact that the United Nations is putting...
Anyway, that was my interview with Bill Kelly earlier today. Always a great pleasure working with Bill. Bill Kelly is the host of The Bill Kelly Show on AM 900 CHML, and they stream worldwide, 900CHML.com. When I come back, we're going to play an interview that I did 6 years ago with a guy who claims that he has the God gene. His name is Thai, and he's from Saskatchewan, Canada. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Snuggled in my arms, and I made love to that maiden from the stars.
Back in Victorian England, a famous theologian posed a perplexing riddle. Why are the two top personalities in the Bible tagged with the numbers 7 and 11? Academics agree the answer is found in the stunning discovery of a hitherto secret Bible structure explained in a new book called The Genesis Grid. The discovery is so simple that preschool children could illustrate it. Certain claims are hugely controversial and may offend some, but at the X Zone, we've studied this awesome new book and agree with one expert, and I quote, "These discoveries appear to be beyond coincidence." So who or what hid this wonderful pattern in the Bible, and what might they do next? Find out more, X Zone Nation, and read reviews on www.genesisgrid.co.uk. That's www.genesisgrid.co.uk. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. You're listening to the X Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035. Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Once again, X-Zone Nation, I'd like to thank my pal Bill Kelly on The Bill Kelly Show. Bill and I go back, it's to 1992 when I first did his show, and then we started doing the X-Zone Radio Show, that very same year. So, Bill Kelly, you're responsible for getting me into this job. Thanks, buddy. It's the best job I've ever had in the world. One of the most favorite of all interviews that I've done over the years, of the 3,160 some odd, was with Thai from Saskatchewan, Canada. He claims that he has the God gene. Take a listen, X-Zone Nation. You're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show on the Talkstar Radio Network. www.talkstarradio.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Hickman, Executive Director of Skywatch International, and you're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell on the Talkstar Radio Network.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Joining me now from Saskatchewan, somewhere between Calgary and Regina, is a gentleman who has a very interesting story to share with us. Joining me now is codename Thigh, and Thigh, welcome to the X Zone.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Now, you've got a very interesting story to tell. You called me off air about a week ago, and the story has truly interested me. And I'd like you to share your story with our listeners.
I wrote a book about it first, Rob. I was given permission, verbal permission, to go ahead and become a public person.
Now, when you say given permission, who are you given permission by?
By the CIA.
All right.
Verbal permission.
Now, wait a second here. Hold on. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are saying, wait a minute, he's in Saskatchewan. What does Thigh have to do with the CIA?
Well, I was born with the Christ gene, or God's gene, and I was registered with it when I was 4 years old.
Now, the Christ gene, is that unique?
Yeah, it is, I guess. Very unique, because we're all classified people that were born with it.
Are you tracked by the security agencies? Are you considered to be a threat to national security?
No, I'm okay. I had clearance a few years ago to go right up to the Prime Minister.
That's interesting, and yet I'm sure people are saying, yeah, it's also very far-fetched.
No, it isn't.
All right, tell me your story. Tell our listeners your story.
Well, I actually wrote a book about it.
And what's your book called?
It's called Virginity.
Okay.
It comes from the Book of Revelations.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I was in a car accident in 1994, and then shortly after that I was told that I was born with the Christ gene, and that I'm in a CIA UFO program for people born with this condition that they believe are maybe the second Christ.
Uh-huh.
And we're given a code name into it. Mine was David of the Bright Morning Star. That's just the word that they use. You actually fill out papers and stuff here in Canada through the Secret Service up here. And in this program, we use a roadmap for modern times, mm-hmm. and the Bible, and the ability to communicate with the Elohim UFOs.
Have you ever seen a UFO?
Oh, piles of them, yeah.
How do you communicate with them?
Oh, I was born that way.
Is it telepathically?
Yeah. I have a fourth level of perception, and I was first found out to be able to do that when I was about 4 years old. Like back in the 50s, all they had to do was take a genetic test,
mm-hmm.
and they'd find out that you have this gene, and then they would register you as a UFO person, and then they would protect your identity, which I've appreciated.
Well, that's why we're calling you Thigh.
Yeah. So my identity has always been protected, but however, over the years, people see the odd thing and stuff, so.
Now, what is the connection between the CIA, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, and extraterrestrials?
Well, they've always had something to do with the Elohim ever since the 1950s. There's been contact made, decades ago.
Do they pose when I say they, do the aliens pose any threat to the security and safety of Earth?
Well, the Elohim aren't aliens to begin with. They're humans, just small humans. And they actually, at times, work with our secret services.
Could these Elohim be interpreted as the gods of the past?
Absolutely, 100%.
So what we're doing is we're actually tying in the extraterrestrial biblical connection.
Well, there's a big mistake here, Rob, when you use extraterrestrial, or, when you talk about aliens and stuff like that.
Okay.
First off, there is two different species. There's one that's extremely friendly with humans, which are creators.
Right.
And then there's the other ones that the system calls the Greys, which are aliens, and they're not terribly friendly with humans. So the whole system, the UFO system, is covered up by our government, say, because on one sense, maybe 90% of the UFOs are friendly and maybe 10% of them aren't.
Now, these Elohim, or Elohim as you call them,
Elohim, yeah.
Where do they originate from?
Well, all indications are they must come from Virgos, constellation Virgos, or Virginis.
So by calling them aliens or extraterrestrials, if they didn't come from Earth, then they are in fact ETs or aliens, right?
Well, they're humans. just like us.
All right, so they are human in appearance, but ET in origin. How's that?
Well, I don't look at them that way, no.
All right. You obviously have had continuous contact with them?
Yes, ever since I was a little boy, yeah.
How do they treat you? How do you know where they are? How do you know when they're coming to visit?
Yeah, you can usually just sense them, or I can bring them down on occasion, or if somebody's really sick or injured or something like that, I'll use them for that.
How do you use them?
Well, it's all explained in my book. It's the same condition that Jesus Christ had, and it's the same condition that King David had.
The laying of hands.
It's more complex than that. Psychologists and psychiatrists are aware of the condition, and everything is known about it, It's just not available to the general public.
You're listening to the X Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. Joining me now from somewhere in Saskatchewan is Thai. Thai claims to have the Christ gene in him. Apparently he's registered with the CIA, the Canadian Security Intelligence Services, and is able to communicate with, are they our creators?
That's correct, yes.
Now, there are many theories out there about Planet X being the planet that circles within our solar system, so on, and this is where certain people within the world of ufology believe that the aliens who created Earth are from. Is there a connection between the people that you communicate with and Planet X?
No, there isn't.
Would this be another species apart from those, or do your contacts say, listen, there is no Planet X?
No, these are the angels of the Bible, and they're associated with people who are born with the Christ gene, and the Christ gene comes from the Dead Sea area. It's a very ancient Jewish gene mutation. Mm-hmm. They know that it skips 5 generations, so 5 generations ago, I had an ancestor that was the same as me, and I'm a carrier of this gene, and my children are a carrier of this gene, and apparently, I think both my parents must have had it. So part of this gene is you have a 4th level of perception, a high level of perception. So you're rated in world population with perception.
To your knowledge, Thai, how many other people are there out there today with this gene and who are actually part of the Secret Service and CIA?
Most people, Rob, that have this gene work for the CIA or the Secret Services. We're very sought after for remote viewers and stuff like that.
Aren't you afraid for your own security and your own safety and the safety of your family by going public?
It's the only way I can protect my family now.
What do you think's going to happen to you once the people in the CIA and CSIS find out that you've gone public and have actually blown the lid off of the government conspiracy?
I have their permission.
Wait a minute. They want you to go public?
That's correct, yes.
Why?
They want the information out.
Well, why wouldn't they just do a press conference, bring people in, and have it done that way?
Because, Rob, we're the guys that get the intelligence from. We're the guys that tell them. They're intelligence agencies.
Right.
They're gathering agencies.
Now,
they have to get the information from people like me.
Okay, all right, but if you're watching the news, it's the president who comes out and makes the big announcements, and by his side are his intelligence directors and his director of FBI, his secretary of defense, but he makes the statement. So why wouldn't the government come out and have you, the remote viewers, or those born with the Christ gene, standing side by side with them at a press conference and where they can answer questions and add credibility to your statements? To me, it looks like they're hanging you out to dry.
Well, that's why I'm the lamb. I'm the first one to come out. There's another reason why I'm coming out. I have a fatal injury, and I'm not expected to live that long. So I'd like to have the truth out, Rob.
What kind of injury is it? Is it something that was sustained while working for these people?
No, I had a car accident.
Here's the question, and please don't take it wrong. How come the people or the Elohim cannot help you and cannot?
Well, they have. If all of my medical records were released, my genetics were released to the general public, it would show beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'm not a true Homo sapien. I differ in the nervous system and the brain system from a Homo sapien, and that's what the genetic condition does. So I can sustain and still stay alive with a fatal injury that an ordinary person can't. That's because I use about 35 to 45% more of my consciousness than an ordinary person. And it's caused from genetics.
Have you ever had your IQ tested?
Well, I'm just average.
How can somebody walking down the street tell by looking at you or the others who have the Christ gene that you're special?
Oh, nobody could tell.
No.
That's why we're kept a secret. I could not have enjoyed an ordinary life if it was released. back when I was a kid.
Tell me, have you worked on any government projects, for example, remote viewing looking for bin Laden, or working to...
No, nothing like that. The only other involvement I had was I ran farm groups and stuff, and I was involved for a while with people that were undercover RCMP. But I've never done, other than supplying information and stuff like that, I've never done anything like this. Well, I've done some work for archaeologists and stuff.
Tell us about your book. When do you expect your book to be coming out?
Probably in a month to 6 weeks.
And where will our listeners be able to pick up a copy?
Well, I should be getting a publishing contract or something like that. If not, I'll be promoting the book myself.
I'll tell you what, Thai, as soon as your book is published, you give me a call.
Okay.
We'll get you back on the air, and we'll help you promote and get the truth out there. How's that? In fact, what we'll do is we'll also give you your own webpage on our website. How's that?
That sounds pretty good. I actually have written up what the basis of my book is.
Would you like to share with us?
Sure.
Okay.
My book is called Virginity, and it's based on the Book of Revelations, and it identifies two places in Israel for the end times. That's the end times of the Christian faith, not the end times of the world, like Christian leaders are telling you. The end times is the end of the Christian faith itself. Christ is the beginning, and Christ is the end, the Alpha and the Omega. The Christ gene, or God's gene, comes from the house of David and genetically mutates the brain and nervous system, as I told you before. And they know beyond a shadow of a doubt it came from a small village near Jerusalem by the Dead Sea. So that is the actual place where the Messianic Jerusalem will land, like the bride of Christ that is spoken about in the last page of the Bible, or in, I should say, Revelations 21 in the Bible. So the CIA program, the Christ gene program, was set up to find the person in the world population that they believe can actually bring heaven to earth. So that person has to have the Christ gene, okay, which comes from the house of David.
Right.
And they have to be a registered UFO person with the alone, which I am.
Now, is there any connection between what you're doing and the Raelian movement?
The Raelian movement is a religion.
Okay.
You know, it's, he's the same as me. He's what we're called Nephilim, actually, from the Bible, eh? He's right about a lot of things, but the Raelian movement is actually a religion. I'm not a religion. I'm more somebody that wants to get the Christian faith, you know, to turn around and go in the right direction, eh?
So you just want to be out there to help people?
That's right.
All right, Thai, we've got to go for now, but we'll be talking to you soon, I hope. Let us know how your book does. Once again, good luck to you.
Okay.
And there you have it, my interview with Thai. Couple of catch-up points. Number one, the book was never published. Number two, we have not been able to identify or confirm any of the statements that he had made in that interview. Sources that we have claimed that, no, he was not affiliated with the RCMP, CSIS, or the CIA. In fact, they basically classified him as a crackpot. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we do our wrap-up for tonight. Once again, I'd like to thank Bill Kelly at AM 900 CHML for having me on his show this morning, where we talked about the UN to appoint a ambassador to greet aliens. Also, this was the day when former Air Force personnel called a press conference in Washington at the Washington Press Club. And according to Stephen Bassett, there were about 10 reporters, or was it 20 reporters and 10 camera crews. And, of course, we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X-Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. Whatever you do, don't go away. I'll be back after the short break for tonight's wrap-up.
I'm William S. Peckham. If you enjoy a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love my novel, From Out of the Woodwork. It's the story of a young Toronto contractor, Sean Kennedy, who buys derelict homes, guts them, and turns them into multifamily dwellings. Slums just waiting to happen. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, the house fights back. Former owners unexpectedly come out of the woodwork as he starts the destruction. The apparitions come to him when he touches old books, reads hidden letters, rummages through old boxes, finds a locket, or reads a discovered manuscript of a murder mystery. From Out of the Woodwork will take you from 1899 to the horror of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. Check out From Out of the Woodwork on my website, www.williamspeckham.com.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show with my good friend, Earthling Rob McConnell, live and around the world on Talkstar. www.xzoneradio.com.
Out in the field, farmers grew bread and called for the meat. They took for the shed. Then dark came to fall. Silence was all. A beauty shone bright, surrounded by light. Come on now. I fell in love with an alien. I fell in love with their eyes. I fell in love with an alien. I'm telling you, no disguise. I'm in love with an alien. I'm in love with their eyes. I'm in love with an alien. I'm telling you, no disguise. Can't look in your baby,
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network. Let me see. We're also on UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and X-Zone TV. And starting next month, the month of November, I'm sorry, that's still a week and a month away. In November, we're going to be starting the X-Zone radio and TV show on Niagara Now Television from their brand new broadcast facilities on Queen Street in Niagara Falls, Ontario. The show will be live from 10 at night. We'll also have the ability to have an in-studio audience, so we'll be inviting members of the public to join us each and every night for the live show. And more information can be found out at www.xzoneradiotv.com/NNTV.htm. As I said earlier, this has been quite a day for ufology. We've had that major press conference that Steve Bassett reported on in the third hour of tonight's show. We also, started our day off here in the X-Zone by doing a telephone call interview with my good buddy Bill Kelly of the Bill Kelly Show on AM 900 CHML. And that interview, it's always great being with Bill. But it shows that people are really concerned and that something is happening within the world of ufology, that it's spreading out. We've had the Vatican who said that they will welcome extraterrestrials. We have the United Nations now who is looking to appoint a space ambassador to greet alien visitors. We've had a press conference in Washington, D.C. that was attended to by a good number of accredited media Already the stories are hitting the world not only electronically but in print. So something is happening. We're going to keep our fingers on the pulse of ufology. We've had interviews with Chris Rutkowski last week, and we also spoke with Peter Davenport, Tom Keller. And we're going to be focusing in on UFOs in the next couple of weeks to see exactly what is happening. Maybe all this hype really wasn't hype after all. We'll certainly do our best to dispel the myths and to bring forward the truth. So until tomorrow, my good friends, I want to thank all our affiliates around the world for carrying us. I want to thank you, the members of the X-Zone Nation, for allowing us to be part of your day or night, no matter where you are on this great, big, beautiful planet. Christmas is coming soon, and if you could start putting away a couple of cents to help those who at Christmas time could really use your help, it's the right thing to do, whether it's a couple of cans of food that you keep in a certain part of your house for the food bank, maybe it's clothes that you collect from family members and friends to give to the less fortunate, or maybe you're able to throw in a couple of dollars into a piggy bank for the homeless and those in need at this very special time. And it's always a great idea to help your local fire department with their, what's it called, Toys for Tots. We all live on this planet. We all share with each other. That's what life is all about. If you have a child at home, give them a hug, give them a kiss, let them know that they are loved, because children are truly the leaders of tomorrow. So until tomorrow night, X-Zone Nation, always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.